Hi, how are you? I got another one already. Go figure. So, I have a number of Atari branded carts. I'm kind of keen not to repeat some things I've done already. So, there's a number of games that I played in my unboxing video. So, I'm going to try not to do those again, with one exception, being the Enhanced Berserk, because I didn't bother to read the manual, and so I played like the easy version. It doesn't have Evil Auto in it. It's not quite the same experience. This is one of the problems with not having manuals. According to Ben from PlayOn, the company that I guess commissioned the 2600 Plus for Atari, they will be including manuals in future new cart releases, which are apparently coming. Yay! So that's something we can credit to the 2600 Plus, is Atari producing new carts for Atari. For Atari consoles. Imagine that. But there will be manuals included, because a lot of people complained about the fact that the 10-in-1 and the 4-in-1 did not have manuals, printed manuals with them. There are apparently manuals available online. The links are available somewhere. I couldn't really see them when I went straight to the Atari front page, but they are apparently there. You have to kind of drill into the individual product information pages or something like that. So it's not super obvious. But because these games are, the Berserk Enhanced is Berserk with enemies that can shoot diagonals and voice. So if you can get the original Atari Berserk manual from the release from 40 years ago, you'll have the game modes. You'll be fine. Other ones that I want to do today. So I'm trying to basically, the theme here is Atari published arcade ports. So I've got Asteroids, which of course is Atari's, I think that's their biggest selling arcade game. Defender, Williams, was a huge one. Atari did a number of licensing deals. They didn't just publish their own arcade games, but they did licensing of other major publishers and got their titles on the console as well. Some of these I played back in the day, like on friends' systems, like Defender and Space Invaders, but I didn't necessarily own myself. And some of them, well, none of these games I owned back in the day. Phoenix, this is a Centauri game, kind of Galaxian variant. Stargate, also released as Defender 2 when Williams Electronics failed to retain the copyright to the name. So this is kind of a bit of a rare one, actually having the Stargate label on it. This is a PAL version of the game. Looks like it was published in '87. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of damage on the cart here in the front corner. Looks like it got dropped or something, but I can still read the label, and it cost me less than it would if it had been pristine, so I'm fine. I also have a copy of Mousetrap. Now, Mousetrap is an Exidy game that was originally published by Coleco. This is a later, looks like 1988. Atari published Mousetrap and Venture, another Exidy game that was released by Coleco. I have the Coleco published cart, but this is the Atari one, and frankly, I didn't know this game existed on the 2600 at all, much less that Atari published it. This is also the first title that I ever got, that I bought. Well, actually, this is one of the first games that I bought, actually, when I started collecting 2600. It also came in a box, which I was like, the original boxes still exist, and subsequently I've bought a number of games that have the boxes. So, shouldn't be surprised that collectors keep these things. I personally don't think I kept any of the boxes when I was a kid. They were just kind of like in the bin. I cared about the carts and the manuals. And lastly, Super Breakout, which I also got on my shopping expedition. In fact, outside of Stargate and Phoenix, and Berserk, of course, the modern version. These games all came from my shopping expedition to Chicago. And I was very happy to be able to get a Space Invaders with the original art cover on it from 1978 instead of one of the later text-only releases of that game. Anyway, so let's play some Atari, and hopefully we can keep this a little tighter than an hour. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Hopefully people have long attention spans like me, but hopefully we won't have to exercise them. So let's play some Atari. The lighting's a little bit different. I had the overheads on previously, but I still can't do anything about this reflective screen here. So you can probably see there's a framed De La Soul poster on this wall, and my exercise bike over here, which I do actually use. Appearances to the contrary. Anyway, we're going to get on with it. We're here to play some Atari games. So first things first, do some asteroids. And this time I got all my manuals handy. Asteroids, obviously huge seller for Atari, which is pretty impressive considering it was a game played with 5 buttons in the arcade. I remember as a kid, I wasn't quite tall enough to hit the buttons easily, so I tended to do the old hold, rotate one direction and just fire all the time in the hopes of getting something. Oh, there's some interesting artifacting off to the side there. All right, now let's see what we got here. There are 66 games. Now, I'm going to turn that off because I don't like that black bar. I'm assuming it's some kind of error that crept in from the dumper or whatever that's used to read the carts on this machine. So there's a key version that's game 66, and otherwise it's looks like it's 1 and 2 player versions of these games. 50-50 just about. Now we'll just start it and see what happens. I don't remember this black bar being here before though. Anyway, it might be that I need to clean the cart. We'll find out. So I'm going to go for fast. So the different game modes, and some of these games, like Space Invaders, is 120 different game modes. What you need to think about this is, yeah, this machine has an operating system on it. It's probably some variant of Linux or FreeBSD or something. But the original 2600 didn't, right? It was a general purpose CPU. It could execute code that it could understand. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the games were written in 6502 or that processor family version of assembler. And then so it could just directly read the code. Now, that would mean therefore that in a modern game, you would have like an option screen where you'd say, well, I want this many lives, I want this and this and this and this and this. And all of this stuff gets executed in the background by the game. But for these, you've got like the game code. So think of the different game modes as basically being like sending command line options to an executable. And that's why there's so many game modes, because this one's like, well, do this, but have faster asteroids, or do this, but have more saucers or something like that. So in this case, I'm going to go for no extra lives, just to keep it tight, and high speed. So that looks like that's game mode. What game is that? 1, 2, 3, 8. So, and then on the right side, we see it's for 1 player. All right. So left and right, rotate left and right, up to thrust, down hyperspace, R button for shoot. Now as a kid, I was kind of an arcade purist. So although I played this at a friend's house, I never had any special interest in owning it myself, because I would rather play the arcade version of Asteroids. As an adult though, I appreciate that this is a pretty good port. I mean, is it a vector game, black and white vector screen? No. I mean, it's running on your TV, so it's obviously going to be a raster image instead of vector. And you can look up the difference between those, or ask me what the difference is if you're young and don't know what a vector monitor is. But as far as asteroids goes, it's asteroids. Shoot big rocks to make them into small rocks, shoot all the small rocks. Oh, I keep running into rocks. It's fine. Now, what I used to like to do as a kid with this game is just thrust as fast as I could. I think I said in my last video, I like speed in games. And so just to go as fast as I could and just shoot, and hope to not die. And I'm willing to bet I'm not seeing any saucers because I've got the difficulty switch in the wrong position. Oh, and there we go. So not my finest hour by any stretch of the imagination, but not bad. I do like some asteroids. Because I have the arcade version of this game on the Atari Couchcade, as well as the Evercade Atari collection, and then of course there's the arcade or the Evercade Atari console compilations. I think I've got this particular version twice as a result. Actually, sorry, 3 times, because I've got on my PS5 the Atari 50 collection. Actually, 4 times, because I also have it, I'm sure it's in the Atari Classics Volume 1, I would think. Sorry, I also have the arcade game. So I've got the arcade game, like in 3 different versions of that. And then, of course, on I think on Volume 2 of the Evercade Atari console collections, there's the 7800 version. So I covered 6 ways from Sunday. Now, I'm going to put Berserk on here again. Now, I know, because I played it enough times, that games 3 and 4 are the ones that have Evil Otto. Game 3, you can bounce him, which means you can shoot him and he'll go away. Which was kind of prescient. That's what, in Frenzy, you could kill Evil Otto, but he would come back. 4, he will just massacre you. But he's unkillable. Here I go. I still love that. Notice I've turned the volume down a little bit. Oh, I just ran into that one. Because the volume was a little high for some of these games last time. I need to get out of here before my smiling friend shows up. Oh, you got me. Not fair at all. Oh, look at this guy. Spamming the fire. Unfair. Completely unfair. So unfair. So I need to double check that. Because I would have thought I'd have Mr. Otto come out at least once. Four. Oh, no, see, game 4 is no Evil Otto. Bloody hell. Okay, Invincible Evil Otto is game 3. Rebound Evil Otto is game 2. Okay, so 1 and 4 and 7, there's no Evil Otto. And 12, which is the Kitty Winks version. So I'm doing it wrong again. So that's good, though. It gives me an excuse to play it a second time. All right. Move, because Evil Otto waits for no man. Okay, I can do it. Oh, there he is. Yeah, must not escape, huh? There's some dialogue that's missing from the original game. I know that the stuff I used to remember enjoying a lot was coin detected in pocket and get the humanoid, stop the humanoid, stop the intruder. And that was another line from the arcade that's not present in this. Aha. I think in the arcade, Gelato would actually kill the robots too. I think there's like no loyalty with that guy. And some games, the stage borders would change color, but in Berserk, the robots change color to tell you you're on a different level. Look at these guys. Just orange again. Oh, see, now that didn't used to happen in the old days. In the original Atari 2600 version of this game, you'd say, the robots did not shoot diagonals. So you had a wee advantage. Oh gosh, they're really going for it. Oh no, man. You gonna come get me? No? I'm not chancing it this time. I'll fight like a robot. I'll kill all of yous. Oh, he's spamming it. Come on, come on. No. Oh, the pink ones. Yay. I was seeing the pink ones in the arcade. That's how you knew you were doing real good. Oh, good. I'm still here. Woohoo. Let's run into the walls. And when I get to the blue ones, I'll be real happy. Still yellow. Ooh. That was a close one. Key, there's a little bit of strategy for you here. If you kill all the robots, Evil Auto goes faster, so it pays to keep one of them around until you're near the exit. Ah! No, I'm still in the play. Ooh. Oh, come on. Alright. A valiant effort, but no blue robots for me. Next up, Defender. My all-time favorite arcade game, which featured a two-way vertical joystick, reverse button, thrust, fire, smart bomb, and hyperspace, as referenced in that Beastie Boys song. But this is the Atari. So, I mean, when I was a kid, as I said, I was more of an arcade purist. And so this kind of disappointed me. I was like, this doesn't look like the arcade version. The landers don't look right. They look like a little circle with a thing. But the fact is, considering the limitations of the machine, this is pretty decent. I mean, they made a city. It has the radar. That's kind of amazing, frankly. So I'm a little more forgiving than I used to be. An enhanced version of this would be cool, but I don't know what you could do with it. But as we will see, you could do something with it, but at a cost. Alright, so how many games we got on this one? Looks like 20. But only 10 of them are one player. Humanoid pickup speed, we'll do fast, so we'll make it game 2. Okay. I mean, we get the startup noise. Not exactly like the arcade. The shot does not look like the thin, wonderful thin line. The swarmers are in groups of 4. You know, it's a little limited here, but... And it doesn't sound like the game, really. There's only like 5 humanoids on the ground instead of 8. But, oh, and look, the baiter's coming out already. Get out of here with this. Ah. I did explode in a cloud of stars, though. Oh, getting wasted. So a couple of things here. In order to get around the fact that there's only one button here, this is fire. If I want a hyperspace, I have to go up to the top of the screen and hold up and press the button. If I want to do a smart bomb, I have to, oh, wow. Oh, I can press the button to start. That's cool. If I want to do a smart bomb, I go into the city and press the button. So, you know, it's not as elegant, but it's not bad. It's good enough that I'm going to play it. I'll just say that. I know some people aren't super excited by this game, but I think they did a pretty decent job working within the limitations of the machine. I don't know how well this sold for Atari. I think it did pretty decent, though. I remember, you know, it was one of these, it was a big hit for Williams. I believe Defender is tied with Pac-Man as the biggest selling arcade machine of all time. Well deserved. Eugene Jarvis did a bang-up job programming it. Oh, I got oh, nope. Now I've got a mutant out there. So the landers keep the humanoids, which are those little flashing blocks are. They don't look remotely like people. And they take them up to the top, and when they get up there, they mutate. And in the arcade, the mutants were pretty lethal. In this version, they're not really that different from any other enemy. You know, they're not, I don't find them that difficult to hit or to escape from. If you don't grab the humanoids on the way down, they fall from a certain height, then they will die. And if you lose all your humanoids, which I am happy to say I've never had happen in the home version of this game, then the planet explodes. Oh. You know, the sense of speed isn't bad. You know, it's a pretty decent port. I was on the fence thinking, I'll skip it, but then I kind of reconsidered. I relented and said, let's give Defender a chance. Now, Mousetrap, I don't think has different game modes. I think it's pretty basic. Plug in the cart. If you're no. Difficulty switch adjusts cat's intelligence. A for smart cats, B for dumb cats. Right difficulty switch adjusts the cat's speed. A for fast, B for slow. Well, this game is going to kick my ass anyway, so. This is another arcade port. This game in the arcades has better graphics, obviously, than the 2600 is capable of. It was played, it had 3 buttons, I want to say. In the arcade, well, you'll see when it loads up. Right, so it's a maze game. And this game just starts. This is one of a few games that just starts. Now you might see the little areas that have blinking, some of the lines are blinking. So if I hold the button down, those are doors and they open up. Now the little bones let you transform into a dog. If I just tap, I become the dog, and then I can eat the cats. And then the cats will respawn later. Now Now in the arcade, there were 3 different color doors. I think they were red, yellow, and blue, creatively. And there's one other thing missing from this game versus the arcade. By the way, the bones, you pick up the bones, which just look like X's, or Purina symbols, if you like. And they are more chances to turn into the dog. So if you don't have any bones, you can't turn the dog, and the cats are going to get you. But the mouse's animation is very similar to the arcade. He in the arcade, he's like kind of moving his mouth, you know, kind of like he's munching the little dots. In the arcade, there were pieces. There was like a piece of cheese or something. I remember you got for bonus points. That's not here. The other thing that's missing is one of the enemies was a hawk that would fly in and home in on you. And there were special areas in the corner that you could go into which would teleport you. You would teleport to opposite corners. That was the only way to get away from the hawk, was to go into the little corners. And as I remember the instructions on the arcade cabinet said, go to the corners to make the hawk stupid. So this game, although it is a decent port, it's missing quite a lot of the original arcade game. So the only challenge is get away from the cats. And you can make them faster or whatever, as I said, with the difficulty switches. But and actually this is the best I think I've done in this game. But so far I'm having a banner moment here. I don't know how good the AI for the cats is. I think I made them dumb with my difficulty switch. Let's make them a little... I don't know if you can do this on the fly. Some games you can flip the difficulty switches on the fly, they'll have immediate effect, and some of them don't. Some of them will actually break the game if you do that. But I think... You know, I think the fact that Coleco even bothered putting this out, I mean, the Coleco version of this game is very much like the arcade. The Coleco clearly had a lot more horsepower than the 2600. That's why it was known for having superior arcade ports, like Mousetrap, like Venture, like, you know, Donkey Kong. Every freaking game on there was better. Oh yeah, they're definitely more clever, these cats. So if you want to do this right, you'll want to play with your difficulty switches in the A position, I think, for the added challenge. Oh, they got me. I do like the cats. They have a little tail twitching in that. All right, Phoenix. So this is another example of Atari licensing a game from another company. Centuri put out a few titles. Phoenix, I think, is their biggest one. They're a smaller arcade game manufacturer. And the arcade, I mean, I thought this was all right. I wasn't a huge fan. This looks very different from the original Phoenix. You would have had more enemies. It was more of a Galaxian kind of feel. But as a port, working within limitations, I think Atari did a really good job, especially having the final boss, who's like in a big mothership kind of thing that you have to blast parts of in order to hit him. Oh, you might notice, working again within limitations of the system, that not everybody is shooting. This is pretty cool. This is very much like the arcade, the big birds. So if you hit him dead in the center, they go, explode, but you can shoot both their wings off, in which case the wings grow back. But if you shoot only one wing, then they just fly around with one wing somehow. I think the premise, quote unquote, of the first game is these are critters from outer space coming to ruin our good time. And that's about it. You know, do you need a plot for something like this? Oh, I got a free ship. I don't think I need it. Okay. Alright. Now in the arcade game, this Armada thing had a bunch of alien birds all over it that would fall down and try to kill you. And instead, what they've done is made this thing descend rapidly to give you a bit of pressure, and it shoots a lot more than I remember the arcade ship doing. But that alien looks very much similar to the thing. Oh, I died, but I took him with me. An amicable trade. Wait, why is it still... Okay. Come on now, I can't fight zombies. Oh. So it's just, you know, the typical kind of rinse, wash, repeat. Well, like I say, not a bad one. I think you can get Phoenix at a reasonable price. I got this as part of my 8-cart order from... Oh, and there's, as you can see in the attract mode, there's a shield, which I haven't been using. I think you pull back for that, but I don't know. Do I need a shield, really, when I'm fighting foes like that? I don't think I do. Space Invaders. This is the one that has a ridiculous... I don't think there's another game that Atari put out that has more freaking game modes than Space Invaders. This was massive when it came out. I think this was the 2600's original killer app. Space Invaders in 1978 was huge. One of the first big hits in the arcades. Really groovy game. Now, I've got one of the difficulties. Now this is, if you look down here, you'll see the difficulty switch. And the hard position makes your ship wider, easier target. Well, honestly, don't need it, because this game doesn't mess around. I would argue that the Atari version is possibly more difficult than the arcade. I mean, it depends on what you're doing. Now there's 112 game modes. Now 65 to 112 are 2-player partnership games. It's interesting, where one player moves right and one moves left. What? And the other one is one player moves and one player fires? So those are the cooperative modes. Interesting idea, that. Make the kids happy, I suppose. 2 opposing players is 17 to 64. So the 1-player modes, there's only 16. You can have shields that move back and forth. Don't like that. Zigzag bombs. Oh, that makes them a little tougher. No. Fast bomb, don't need it. Invisible invaders. A stretch of these, like 8 game modes, have invisible invaders. Why? So this is one that I can pretty well do just with game 1, which is nice, not to have to change. Space Invaders, I mean, how basic is this? Shoot the things that are coming to kill you. If they land on the planet, it's game over. If you get shot, you die. In the arcade, there were 4 invader types, which when I originally played it, I didn't realize this, but they're actually different types of critters. So I think there was one that was supposed to be like a crab, one that was like a squid, one that was like an octopus or something like that. These ones look different. And again, Junior Sean, the arcade purist, did not like the fact that the invaders did not look like the invaders from the arcade, being the arcade invaders didn't look that difficult to recreate. As an adult, I appreciate the fact that it has a unique look. And the gameplay is the same. So there are strategies you can use for this. I like to get one of these middle rows so that I can try to hit the saucer that flies past overhead, which I find very challenging in the Atari version because I can't tell how much to lead my shot by very easily. Another thing that is making the Atari version loads harder is that the shields disappear. The lines of invaders there aren't as many lines basically. So these things would come down to the earth way faster than they would in the arcade, which makes this game a lot harder. So your shields in the arcade would persist, but here, probably because of the limitations of the Atari VCS memory, you've got all these marching aliens, they're all shooting a lot. So when they get too low, they just, the shields just disappear. So you're completely defenseless way early. Hey, I got it. But one thing I like to do in order to hurry things along a bit is to shoot down one of the columns on the ends, because then they don't travel as far before they start marching down, which also means I can get them faster. And you'll notice there's only one left, it speeds up. I'm doing pretty good here, actually. Oh, but now I got nothing. And again, like some other games I've shown, you can't spam. So your one shot on the screen has to hit something, or you have to wait for it to travel up to the top, which is a bit pants. Yeah, look at me hitting the big saucer. But one of the charms of Space Invaders, and as a kid I found Space Invaders not that interesting a game, to be honest. I mean, I wanted to play it, obviously, but once you start having Pac-Man and things like this became fairly pedestrian. But as an adult, I appreciate the fact, I like the enemy design, the fact that it's, how far can you get? This game will kill you eventually. You can't, there's no pattern to learn like Pac-Man. You can't just sit there and play this thing forever. They will defeat you. So the whole goal is to see how far you can get on your quarter. There's no continues, right? You're stuck with what you got. All right, Stargate. Now this, I did not know that they had done a support of this. This is a very late era 2600. By the time the 2600 Junior had appeared, I don't think there's any game modes in this. It's just play it as it comes. So again, this is a game published by Atari. I forgot to get my second joystick. So, unlike Defender, they decided to just provide all the controls. But in order to access the additional controls, and there's a few other games that do this, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, you need a second joystick, even though you're playing a one-player game. So the first joystick is your move and your fire. Second joystick, fire button is smart bomb, and I think one of the directions is Stargate added an extra button, like there weren't enough buttons in Defender already, but the sequel to Defender added Inviso. Right, okay, here we go. Right controller to activate smart bombs and Inviso, and to jump to hyperspace. Press the fire button to activate smart bombs. Joystick forward for Inviso, that turns you invisible and makes you invulnerable, but it has a meter, it runs out. And then once you run out of Inviso, pressing the fire button will send you into hyperspace. So there is no separate hyperspace control. You have to use up your Inviso first. Fine. Okay. Did I do the Inviso again? My memory. Joystick forward. Great. All right. So needless to say, when I found out that this existed and it wasn't rubbish, pretty excited. I mean, I like Defender more than Stargate. I thought Stargate kind of, overcompensated a bit with extra enemy types and the Stargate. Look at that, it's got the logo for Stargate. I mean, I really enjoy this fact that I have this and with the name Stargate, 1984, original publication, because of the fact that by the time the Williams Arcade Collection came out for the PlayStation, which was my original killer app for the original Sony PlayStation, Williams had failed to renew their copyright, and the movie Stargate came out, and they registered it, and so I don't know for sure if there was an actual threat of litigation, or if Williams just decided, you know what, we're not going to contest it. And they changed the name. I didn't find this out until, the 90s, but that happened a long time ago. They changed the name of Stargate to Defender 2, and in fact, when they did the emulation, and every subsequent time, the game is called Defender 2, not Stargate. Which, so look at that, it's got like a startup noise. The laser looks more like the arcade laser. The humanoids look more like the humanoids. You can see they've got different colored heads and little hands. You got the different enemies, which there are loads of in this game. That's the Stargate. You can actually fly into that. The Stargate teleports you. There's these horrible things that shoot fireballs at you. I mean, it's really quite surprising. But what this game doesn't have for me is it doesn't feel, I mean, the movement is great, but it doesn't have the same sense of speed to me that the arcade, or that the Defender does on the 2600. And maybe that's just me. That's just my perception. I don't know. But it looks cleaner. The startup, it doesn't sound like Defender startup. I think the 2600 version made a better attempt, but it's got all the enemy types pretty much too. I mean, I genuinely was impressed when I first played this. When you get to stage 2, they actually have space guppies. And I'm like, come on, really? For an Atari 2600 game, this is quite a feat. And I'm also very pleased, of course, that it works on my 2600 Plus. Now, more likely you can find this game online. If you wanted to buy it on, there's a space guppy. If you want to get it on eBay or something, you're probably going to find it named Defender 2. I just lucked out and found this one. And I'm going to see what the mutant, the mutant looks like a mutant. Cool. That thing won't shoot at me. But, also the same as in Defender on the 2600, the mutants aren't really that threatening. Now, one thing I haven't seen yet, I was about to say, I haven't seen a pod with swarmers yet, but I just shot one. So, yep, they got those two. Ooh, I just got a free life. This is actually I haven't played this too much. I think, having the second joystick is slightly annoying. I don't find it that obvious, to use. Like I'm gonna, this trying to move and hit up on the joystick at the same time is a bit mad, frankly. It looks like it. Oh, I see. In the arcade, you'd actually have to hold the VISO button down, but it looks like the fix here was it just keeps the effect for a couple seconds, so it's long enough that you can actually just. Oh, Vader too. Cool. Alright, what else is left? Oh, that thing. Oh, Vader's. Not bad, really not bad. I'm still amazed that they even did this, much less actually came out with a version that was that playable. So, whoever programmed Stargate, stroke Defender 2 for the 2600. You should be proud. You did a man's job. Or a woman's. I mean, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything. Just an expression, but you know, there are a lot of old expressions that don't age very well. So I retract my earlier statement. All right, and last but not least, we'll finish out with a paddle game. One of my very favorites. Now that's where that went. I stuck two of these together, which is Super Breakout. I played Breakout on my unboxing video, and I played it again in my Let's Play Part 1, but I have not played Super Breakout, which is a bit different because it has different modes. Let's move these out of the way because I don't want anything falling on the floor. Okay. This is a card I had to clean eventually. The little plastic doors, most of these Atari carts have a little plastic gate, but the newer ones don't. The later edition ones did not. So you'll see there's two little holes next to these. Well, maybe you can't in this light. Anyway, if you take a small flathead screwdriver and put it in there, bang, you can push that back if you need to clean the PCB edge connectors. Okay, so now there's been a bit in the forums about the paddles and the fact that they don't track quite as smoothly as on an original piece of hardware. This is being attributed to the whatever I/O interface is between the Stella emulator and the hardware. That the resolution isn't high enough, and so whereas on the original 2600 hardware you would have there'd be extra steps basically so that you could make smaller incremental moves. This machine doesn't have that, at least in this version of the firmware. Hopefully that'll be fixed in an update, but quite honestly, still playable even without. Now, my favorite mode, you got regular Breakout, you got this one, the double paddles, Cavity, and then this is Progressive. And I was always a fan of Cavity. Now, interestingly, the original arcade version of Super Breakout Cavity mode did not have double paddles. It just had one. But once you get all these balls flying, you be glad you had two freaking paddles, I tell you. So in order to compensate for the little step jerkiness, you've got to kind of just commit to a course of action. And then it smooths out a little. You know, I'm not doing too good here. I'm kind of not proving my point. My point is you can play this game. So it would be nice if the paddles were a little smoother, but quite honestly, I would still prefer this with slight jerkiness to trying to use a fingertip on a PS5 controller touchpad. Okay. Now once you get to the blue bricks, the speed goes out of control. So I really hope I'm going to have some balls freed up from those cavities before that happens. Oh, yeah, it's being a little fiddly. Okay. No, don't hit the blue one yet. No. Okay. See if I can get some English on this. Alright, we're just going to have to face the music. Oh yeah, there we go. Whoa! Alright, freed. There's one. Alright, we're going to go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs pretty soon. Nope, not that. Oh, damn it, I just lost that one. Believe it or not, I've actually cleared boards in this game. Might not look like it. There we go. You really got to leverage those paddles until you can get above the fray. Come on, get above the fray. Nope, not yet up. Now, once you get in the top, you'll see the paddles shrunk in size, which I think is a bit cheap. It's like, come on, you know, the game's hard enough already. You got to shrink the size of my paddles too. But, you know, Super Breakout. Groovy as heck. Still love it. Anyway, so that's been a little taste of Atari's arcade ports that they went and did of themselves and other publishers' games. They did a pretty decent job. Not all created equal, obviously. I don't own Pac-Man for a reason. But I did back in the day, and let me tell you, you want to talk about disappointing ports. Wow. I mean, but in fairness, if you watch the documentary on the Atari 50 collection, then you realize that in many cases, Atari was as guilty of the crunch as big publishers are today. And so in that case, you know, Pac-Man is given to one guy to program in a fairly narrow window to make a release date. And, you know, considering that, he feels, and I would tend to agree, not a bad result. The game's playable. It's kind of like Pac-Man, just not enough. But those kind of working conditions and the lack of recognition is what led to the creation of Activision. And that will be the subject of my next video. So until then, keep gaming.